Hey, this is Daphne here with the Transplaning Podcast. Just wanted to give an update. We have been catching up on episodes. Things are becoming more normalized. We are actually booked out through June into July at this point, and we are some of the weeks we are even double booked. So things are coming, growing with this podcast. We appreciate everything that our listener, the time that you have spent here with us and given us. If you are able to help build the podcast, we would love that. You can help support us at buymeacoffee.com/transplaning podcast. If you would like to be on the podcast, you can reach out to me, Daphne, at transplainingpodcast.com. That's the best place to reach me. And we just wanted to say thank you again. We have been growing. We're now 36 countries that we're listened to, and this thing is just steadily growing, and we are just loving what we do, but we want to be able to bring more to you. So it was just a quick update. A couple days ago was Trans Day of Visibility. We are trying to bring more media towards you so that there is more visibility, whether that is just through more social media interactions or more episodes or shorts and reels. We're just trying to make sure that we can do the best for you. So please hang in there with us while we get this going and keep it growing, and be sure to share our podcast. That helps a lot. We have some big names and experts that are coming on the podcast here in the future. We're excited to have them. We've had some exciting ones. So, this is growing, and we just want to say thank you. And welcome to our family.
Welcome back to the Transplaning Podcast. My name is Bear, of course, joined by the lovely Daphne.
I still got the cherry earrings.
Still got the cherry.
Still got the cherry. Yeah. These two are recorded on the same day. So, cool. Thank you. So, today, this interview, we have a fascinating conversation that I'm looking forward to. This is a person here that reached out to us and wanted to they have some exciting news coming up and wanted to have that kind of conversation. And of course, we always like hearing stories, the stories. So I wanted to this is one I've just kind of been looking forward for a while, because there are some different aspects to this. So I want to make sure I say this right. Do you just want to go by MK? Is that how you're comfortable?
Yes, I'm MK Zariel. My pronouns are it, and I'm a transmasculine anarchist, organizer, poet, theater artist, and community member.
And see, that is a whole lot of information. There's just a lot buried there. And so I think this would be a fascinating conversation to just kind of see how this goes. Let me see here. MK, one of the first things that stood out to me was when you sent me the email. At the bottom of it, it has your pronouns there, and your pronouns, it says, are it's. And so that's not a set of pronouns that we hear every day. And I know that there's a lot, Zer, and you had one that you're about to say, I think.
I think in Sweden they said hen, he. Or maybe it was a Z. I don't know.
Either way, there's a lot of different pronouns out there, and so this is one of them that.
Not it.
Well, it is obviously, but we've not heard that very well. I've heard it, but you don't hear it very often, and so I just wanted to kind of start off with before we dig into your story, can you explain what it means to you and why you chose those pronouns, why those fit you?
Yes, absolutely. So it's are a neo-pronoun, and I chose them not only because I am non-binary transmasculine and I didn't want to use stereotypically masculine pronouns necessarily, but because anti-assimilationism is a big part of my queer politic. I've always found the queer core movement resonant, and the BashBack tendency, and every other movement that has advocated for trans people to rather than trying to pass, rather than trying to present cis or maybe assume cis privilege in some ways, instead embracing presenting openly as trans, and that's kind of pushing the envelope in terms of what is considered socially normative. And so I choose to use it because the moment people hear that my pronouns are it, they know that I'm trans. With they them, that tends to be the pronoun that people use when they simply don't know what pronoun someone uses, and that is also many people's pronoun of choice. But it tends to not be the societal assumption, and
It
that was another
separates
reason
you.
that I chose it.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of it is just that it separates you from the stereotypes, but still puts you into the category of where you feel comfortable. Am I understanding that right?
To some extent, it's not so much being afraid of trans stereotypes as strongly desiring not to pass and not to assimilate and choosing a pronoun that is culturally queer and challenges the assumption that pronouns need to share something about someone's gender identity at all. When people hear
Yeah.
my pronouns are it, they don't necessarily know. They know that I'm in the trans community, but beyond that, it doesn't give any information about my gender, which was exactly what I wanted. I believe that pronouns are neutral and pronouns shouldn't necessarily have to communicate gender unless that's what somebody wants.
Okay. It makes a lot of sense to me. So then the question that immediately comes to mind, and maybe you hear this a lot, I don't know, but when you go to it and its, doesn't that not that it turns you into, but a lot of people then question, well, isn't it and it's a thing rather than a person? Uh, am I asking that right? Am,
Well,
how,
first of all, I identify with the other kin community, so the labels of humanity and personhood are not something that I always resonate with.
okay.
Second of all, I believe that in a society with capitalism and the state, who is seen as a human and who is seen as a person is not neutral. It is political.
Okay.
We see trans people being dehumanized every day, and people of marginalized genders. And to use it is to say, actually, I don't care if people see me as a person. I just care if they respect that I'm trans. The reason that I use
Interesting.
it is because the construct of personhood is not something that I want to engage with. Because, like, if you look at almost any text where bigotry is taking place of any kind, whether that's racism, sexism, transphobia, dehumanization often comes into it. The idea that some people are lesser than or non-human, and that is often used as a tool of oppression. The construct of personhood only exists because it's able to exclude some people and some experiences. And using it means that I'm willfully saying, no, I'm not trying to buy into personhood. I'm not trying to exist in a way that means I'm seen as a person. I'm trying to exist authentically. And whatever that means about my personhood is okay.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Are you following along with that, Bear?
I'm trying. Yeah. it's 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 just different and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Like I said, it's something that we don't hear
No.
very often, and I find very fascinating that it's about. I don't. I understood what was said. I understood it. I don't quite know how to put it back into words again, but yeah, I understood what was said about not wanting to about oppression being associated with personhood and whether or not someone is more or less person, and just saying, hey, you know what? I care that you know that I'm trans, but I don't want you to deal with the other shit. Just fuck all that. Did did I catch that right? Does that sound
Yes,
right?
you did.
Okay, cool.
When I decide how to present in terms of my gender, I'm not trying to be seen as a person by those who already would want to dehumanize me. I'm trying to be in a community where personhood is not the standard by which we're judged.
Right. You being a person should just be something that's automatically granted and not something that should be earned.
Or something that isn't part of the decision as to whether I deserve respect. Because
Correct.
if you think about it, the environment deserves respect, non-human animals deserve respect, and yet those are also, parts of the world and parts of community that tend to not get the respect they need under capitalism and the state because they're also denied personhood.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Poor bear. It does make a lot of sense to me, though. It does make a lot of sense to me. So that was one of the first things that stood out to me when you had sent the email. After this, I figure now that we kind of have that set aside as a baseline, can we hear your story if you're comfortable sharing that? Like what makes you you? Where did I say that right? I think I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So I became an anarchist when I was 13 years old after it was not the greatest time for me with regard to mental health and queer community. And I stumbled randomly upon Emma Goldman's body of work online, and I spent the entire summer reading and self-educating about that.
Okay.
And then when I joined my first anarchist spaces, I very quickly realized that I was trans. Before then, I knew in some ways that I felt masculine of gender, but didn't think I could be trans because I wasn't binary and because I valued feminism and didn't want to be part of anything patriarchal by transitioning and presenting masculine. And I had also kind of internalized the idea that to be a feminist meant I necessarily, would feel masculine of gender anyway, and therefore didn't need to transition. And then, like, as I joined spaces where people with anarchist and feminist views had all kinds of gender expressions, I learned that I also could. I came out as non-binary and then as transmasculine lesbian. And from there, I just continued participating in anarchist spaces. I tend to align myself with the queer BashBack tendency, which is like broadly queer anarchism with an orientation toward community building and direct action. Um, and now I participate both at the local and the national level in mutual aid networks and Palestine solidarity groups and, punk venues and books to prisoners efforts and projects like that. And I also...
Can I pause you for just a second? Give me 1 second here. We got a tech thing we're doing real quick.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everything okay, Bear? I can't participate if I can't. Okay. Oh, Bear had something come up. Bear had something come up he's got to step away for real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll keep having the conversation here with you though.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so anarchist. You stumbled on the reading for anarchist and you assimilated with that, you agreed with it. It felt some kind of a connection to it. Why anarchy?
First of all, just for listeners who might be familiar with trans liberation but not anarchism, as many of us are, the way I tend to define anarchism is the belief that social hierarchies, such as capitalism, the state, the nuclear family, transphobia, sexism, should not exist, and that instead we can and should build societies around mutual aid and community care. So anarchism isn't necessarily within the stereotype that many folks might have internalized, which is, the idea that any chaotic or disorganized space is necessarily anarchist, or that any violent space is necessarily anarchist, none of which is all that accurate.
Why?
So with that out of the way, the reason I personally resonate with anarchism is that I feel like anarchism implies trans liberation and vice versa. To be authentically trans, we don't just need, access to public spaces and access to healthcare in the ways that many of the more legislative focused arguments talk about. We need societies where self-repression in general, the idea that like repressing your desires around gender is necessary or important, the idea that we get to judge or decide about other people's gender, etc., do not exist.
Can I back you up for a second here, though?
Yes.
The common thing that you hear about is, well, if there's anarchy, it's chaos. There's no any kind of, I don't know. People picture, I would say, something like Armageddon kind of deal, where there's just chaos everywhere. And you're saying anarchy doesn't mean that?
Yes, I am saying that.
Okay.
When I think about how we do anarchism on a daily basis, anarchism is just the act of providing and receiving care in community without expecting anything in return and without there being some kind of implicit force or implicit violence behind those interactions.
Where does
We
that
do anarchism anytime we support our friends when we need it. We do anarchism in our communities, in our neighborhoods every day. Most people have done something that aligns with anarchism without ever using those words for it.
how does this separate from communism?
Communism is usually a more structured and planned economic system that can exist with the state and with central planning. Anarchism, because anarchism disavows violence and force and brutality of any kind, does not believe in state power. So plenty of anarchists believe in like a communist idea of how to distribute resources and how to make sure people get what they need. But the state aspect is not something that resonates with most anarchist spaces.
So
So the label people would use would be anarcho-communist or something like that.
okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding though, if there's if anarchist is the way we're running with this, then doesn't society fail?
Do you mean would a broader anarchist society fail or have existing anarchist societies failed?
Well, I don't know that I know necessarily how to answer all of this. Keep in mind, I'm the idiot over here that doesn't know anything about it, right? The way I'm picturing this is if there's anarchy, and if there's anarchy, then I'm thinking that any kind of government has collapsed, and which I think is kind of a given. But now I'm picturing that instead of us being in any kind of like a civilization, that now we've gone back to tribes with similar beliefs, almost like we went backwards 2,000 years.
So that's a point of view that exists that's called post-civilizational anarchism, and some anarchists are not fond of civilization. I happen to think that civilization and anarchism are compatible in many ways, and that it's possible to have a broader society and even like some level of coordination and planning without needing a state. If you look at the historical examples of autonomous zones that exist, even the more recent ones, such as the Weelaunee Forest occupation, such as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and other projects like that.
Okay.
There have been areas of major cities that have been run in an anarchist manner for quite a while and done okay until state repression has made that impossible. But the reality is, while there are, of course, many concerns about human nature under anarchism, would people hoard resources, etc., most people do truly want to provide care to others. Most people want to feel cared for and like they can rely on their community. And if human nature truly is harmful, then that would also make states quite risky because as we see with the American government, people who have a desire to engage in bigotry, to hold power over others, do sometimes run for office, and it does sometimes go badly. So
Right.
I would say that concerns about human nature are founded, but if one is concerned about human nature, that's more of an argument for anarchism than statism.
Okay. I believe I can follow that. There's just a lot of information in here, and when you, I don't know, maybe are in a space like me, I tend to be kind of a middle of the road kind of person. I don't know that I necessarily swing a lot of one way or the other. I'm having a hard time necessarily wrapping my mind around something so. I would say it feels opposite to what I understand. So Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, anarchism is new for a lot of people. And I'd like to name that, like, when we haven't been exposed to anarchist critical theory, many of us have still done anarchism in our day-to-day lives. Like, if you have a support network around you that, you'll take care of other people and they'll take care of you, that's an act of anarchism. If you've been in a space that doesn't have leadership and is run by consensus, then that also is an act of anarchism. I would say even this podcast that doesn't have formal leadership and instead just has, two people doing a project together because they care about it is an act of anarchism. Like, you may not know it, but like to run something like this in a non-hierarchical way proves that it's possible to run something like this in a non-hierarchical way.
I'm following what you're saying. Were you going to say something there?
No.
No.
No, I'm listening.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm just listening.
Right. Okay, so you fall into you found a group or I don't want to say club, but some sort of group that you connected with around the help me say
Anarchism.
this. Thank you. Anarchism. I don't want to say movement, but around anarchism that you started to be a part of this group. Does that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, in the anarchist movement, we call these affinity groups. So groups of people who have an affinity for one another and enjoy organizing together. Right now, I'm participating in a few affinity groups, but joining my first one was a turning point for me in terms of realizing I was trans.
Okay. So what was it that made you go, oh, hey, what was it that made you go, oh, hey, I am trans? It was just that you didn't feel necessarily female, but you didn't want to go into other stereotypes then?
It was more like I just hadn't had much exposure to trans community before I became an anarchist. So I was only dimly aware that it was possible to be transmasculine, non-binary, and that I could be masc presenting without necessarily adopting like the kind of hypermasculinity that some cis men feel pressure toward.
Okay.
And it was also quite honestly hearing stereotypes about feminism that was a struggle for me because there is the stereotype out there about feminists that many are masc presenting or butch or don't feel a strong affinity with womanhood, which obviously is false. Anyone can be a feminist, whether they're high femme or they're butch or anywhere in between. But for much of my life, I attributed my gender nonconforming nature to the fact that I was believed strongly against gender stereotypes.
Okay.
And it was only after hearing a broader range of feminist politics and meeting feminist folks who truly did identify with womanhood, cis and trans, and wanted to present that way, that I realized my gender feelings had more to do with genuinely feeling masc of gender than they did with anything about my politics.
Okay. I am following that. So you give me 1 second. I had the page pulled up here. You identify then BashBack influenced trans mask queer dyke activist is what it says on this website. Does that sound correct then?
Very much so, yes.
Okay. Can you explain what BashBack influence means?
So Queer's BashBack is like a strand of anarchism, and the first wave began in the 2010s. The second wave started in around 2023, when the BashBack convergence happened, and there was kind of a resurgence of that line of thinking. But the BashBack movement was broadly an anarchist tendency around the American Midwest, but grew to be national. That focused on queer liberation and was influenced by what's called insurrectionary anarchism, which is the idea that directly solving societal problems goes a long way toward anarchist organizing. And And on top of that, BashBack was also very much invested in community and mutual aid. So, like, what does it look like for us to help each other access gender affirming care? What does it look like for trans people to have options for housing that are trans inclusive and supportive?
Yeah.
What does it look like to build social support in various cities and translocally? All of these questions were answered within BashBack. And the goals of the movement were not just to engage in direct action and push back on homophobia, but also to build these kind of networks of care and networks of survival that made things easier for the trans community.
Okay. So how do we do those things? Because you just listed a list of things that it helps answer how to, like or transphobic housing is one of the things you said. How do we find?
That's not what I did not say transphobic housing. I said
No.
trans inclusive housing.
Well, yeah, I said or dis trans. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Trans inclusive is the better way to say it. Yeah, trans inclusive housing. How do we find the right way to run these things or to do that?
Well, I can speak to what I personally do. I cannot speak for every anarchist ever. If you
Of
ask 10
course.
anarchists about something like this, you'll get 12 opinions. But personally, I believe that that bashback aligned anarchism functions best when each community has its own trans survival network. So an affinity group or a project that helps connect people to the resources they need, be it housing or food or social support or anything else like that. My region has one that I've done some community organizing work with the aim of helping trans people's mutual aid needs get met. But beyond that, and I realize that's kind of like a nitty-gritty logistical answer, I think that mutual aid is the kind of thing that's self-replicating. So, for example, if you notice that the trans community in your city is really struggling with food insecurity and you start a project to distribute food, then if that takes off, people in other cities might notice it and want to do a similar thing where they are.
Right.
Like projects like this are great because they don't rely on legislation, they don't rely on funding, they don't rely on the government doing or not doing something. They just rely on the kind of labor that we can all put in voluntarily as members of a community. Within the Situationist International, there was a slogan about anarchism being the building of a new world in the shell of the old, and that's something I really resonate with. To be an anarchist isn't just to take action against institutions that are causing problems, but also to build networks that are decentralized, that are liberationist, and that meet people's material and emotional needs.
Okay. I'm sorry, Barry. It sounds like you're like keep getting ready to kick in, so I'm like, yes, and then, yeah, no worries. I believe I am mostly following everything we've been talking about. Okay, so we got the bashback influenced transmasc. We can understand that neuroqueer, dyke anarchist. So this all makes sense. Organizes in trans liberationist spaces, which makes sense. Some of the other things that I had seen though was you write poetry. Can you talk a little bit about the poetry that you do?
For sure. Yes, so I write experimental free verse poetry, and I have ever since I was 11 years old, and I came out for the first time as gay. And actually, what prompted my appearance on this wonderful podcast was the release of my debut poetry collection, Boy Operation, which came out on Vinegar Press in October of last year and is available online. And that is a collection about transmasculine identity. So what it means to present as book, how transmasculinity might affect one's perception of time and development and identity, how and if transmasculinity ties to lesbian culture,
Okay.
and what it means to be transmasculine without engaging with hegemonic manhood or hierarchy or linear time. This poetry collection is my way of answering the question to what do I transition if not toward patriarchy? How can I be mask presenting without being a man? How can I be mask presenting without enabling, the oppression that mask presenting people have been complicit in? How can I build community as a mask presenting person? All of that.
Okay. Do you want to share some of the poetry?
Yes, absolutely. Would you like me to perform one of the poems?
Yeah, that would be great. I keep in mind I don't I was talking about this with Bear before we started is that I don't understand poetry. Like it's just something that I don't understand as a whole myself, but Bear was trying to explain that it's a way of expressing feelings in a explain to me what you said, Bear.
Yeah, just an expression where you're real passionate about a particular thing, and it's more of the delivery versus the rhymes, or it can rhyme, it don't matter, but it's mainly just a form of expression, just a different, more broad and kind of in your face kind of expression.
Does that sound right?
Yes, absolutely. Poetry gives us a chance to say the things that we might not be able to articulate otherwise due to the bounds of logic and what's socially normative. As someone who has had synesthesia my entire life, I find that poetry gives me a way to express myself that feels fully authentic and unmasked.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead and hear some of the poetry that you've put together. I mean, or you said you wanted to perform one. I would love to hear that.
Yeah, let's
So
go.
this is one of the poems in Boy Operation, and it's about queer ecologies. It's called Transmasculine. I
Okay.
walk through the paths and grades of desire, never fully belonging to either. I could have been your sister in arms, or one of the only men you trust, yet instead I am thin air and soft night skies and forgetting. Refer to me as your apparition, your rolling thunder that vanishes in a second. One foot in the cleansing ocean and one on amorphous verdant ground, and yet I will always set fire to your prairie grasses. Will always be extinguished or else negate. I swim through acidified seas called womanhood and wonder why I'm the only one whose skin burns and cannot survive. Call me your amphibian, watch me destroy every shred of patriarchy I touch, only to crawl back. Am I normal enough to breathe underwater? I don't want to know what you assume when you look upon my body. Don't want to know what a gender is. I will never be anything more than the parasitic plants that linger between sea and sky, the algae that is unnoticed yet ignored. I don't want to know what being gay is, because if I did, you would have gendered me in the first place. Am I normal enough to drown?
Wow. That's deep.
Jeez. Wow.
That's really deep.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
Dang.
I'm feeling a lot of intense emotion about being forced into a role. Does that? Please tell me if I'm wrong. I
yeah, absolutely. So this poem is about feeling like when one is non-binary, one doesn't fit into either societal box, and one also has to deal with being gazed at, being perceived, being gendered in a society where sadly guessing about people's gender is the norm when we interact with them. Like the existence of passing privilege, the existence of even needing to transition only exists because it's so societally normative to take a guess about what people's gender identity is. Whether we've just been born and a medical provider is saying how we might identify later solely because of what our body looks like that we can't control, or whether we're just interacting with someone and they take a guess at our pronouns, even though we haven't shared our pronouns. These kind of dynamics are ever present, and I wanted to write something about how destabilizing that is when truly neither stereotype is a good fit.
Hi, I'm an
there was a lot of deep emotion that came through in there, and I really enjoyed what I was hearing. Do you have any other pieces that one of the things I saw was you have like some slam poetry? I would,
Um,
yeah.
I do not do. I actually don't do slam poetry.
You don't do
I
it.
do performance poetry, meaning that my poetry is meant to be read and shared aloud. And I do, regular events around that. At the time of this podcast, I have an upcoming one at Wooden Shoe Books and another on Tell Me Wyatt Blake's Discord server. Plus, of course, events around the Midwest for those who are interested, all on my social media.
Yeah.
So I don't do poetry competitively, but I do share it in contexts that involve reading aloud.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You travel around the country then doing this?
Not exactly. So I am based around the Midwest. And much of the performances I've done have been local. So these are at venues in Chicago, Minneapolis, the Fox Valley, Milwaukee, Madison. And my next couple events are both in Madison and Minneapolis, if listeners to this podcast live around there.
Yeah.
But I also do virtual events that are accessible to anyone and are often in collaboration with bookstores that are a little more far flung.
Okay, so let's talk about your book then. That's going to be something that's coming out. Let's go ahead and talk about that and what does that look like? Because you said it's coming out. When is it going to be released?
So my debut poetry chapbook, Boy Apparition, was released October of last year.
Oh, it's already released.
Oh my.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 other books coming out this year, though.
2 more coming out this year. Okay, so you have the one that came out last year. What was it called?
Boy Apparition.
Boy Apparition. Can you give us kind of an idea what that's about?
Sure. So I'll just read from the blurb real quick. This was what was on the website, so please excuse my talking about myself in the third person.
Yeah, no worries.
There are 2 transmasculine genders, the butch anarchist and the tiny atemporal gremlin who really needs a hug. In Boy Apparition, MK Zariel tackles both. This chapbook is full of love letters to the BashBack tendency, chronicles of insurgent trans boyhood and its ties to lesbian culture, unhinged teenage rants, and the kind of love poems you'd write in lipstick on the mirror of the gender-neutral bathroom. Through it all, one question is central: what it means to be transmasculine beyond hegemonic manhood, beyond hierarchy, beyond linear time itself.
There's a lot built into that. I mean, you wrote a book. How long does it take to write a book? I mean, 2 more coming out this year. That seems to me like a lot of work. I know how much work it takes for us to be able to put out this podcast, and the amount of time that I spend preparing for episodes, trying to get people signed up. We spend hours recording the episode. We recorded one literally right before you came in, and so we've been at this now for 5 hours now. And so, for us to, it's a lot, actually 6 hours, because we started an hour before that. Right. So, it takes an insane amount of time for us to be able to do this. And then afterwards, I'm spending a bunch of hours editing episodes, getting them ready, producing them, posting them. And then running social media handles and accounts. There's a lot of time that is built into this. There's also events that happen in person that we go to. So, I mean, there's a lot that happens and it takes a lot of time. So if you're traveling and doing poetry in live events and live settings, you're doing them in remote settings, you're also on top of it writing multiple books. That just seems like an insane amount of time that you're putting into this.
And I also have a podcast and a blog and produce self-public zines and am in multiple anarchist groups. Thank you for calling that out. I do have a tendency to overcommit to projects. As for the timing on this book,
I do too.
It really depends on the book. Boy Apparition was a long time in the making. I started it when I was 14 and didn't get it published until I was 16. That said, different with him. My March release on Rockwood Press was something that I could put together in an afternoon because I'd written so many poems during that month on the same theme, and it just felt natural. And Void Gazing, my micro chap coming out on Little Micro Press in May, was kind of mid-range in that I wrote the poems in it over like a couple months mainly, though one of them was written like 2 years before I knew I'd be writing a chapbook.
Okay.
And then pieced it together after like an earlier version of it got rejected and I got feedback.
Okay. I mean, that's just so much time. And I'm here on I believe this is your website. Is this your website? It is. Yeah. I found a link on your website here where I was able to look at the different books, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books on here. I mean, that's how long are these books? Is this something that's 20 pages and it's got 20 poems and that's it, or are these something we got 200 poems? I'm thinking, what's the Falling Up, whatever that poem book? You know what I'm talking about? Where the sidewalk ends. You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
Where the Sidewalk Ends. So Where the Sidewalk Ends was a book that I remember, a poetry book that I remember.
I read Calvin and Hobbes.
That's comic, but it's a book. Good job.
Anything can be poetry if we really put our minds to it.
That's fair. So where the Shel Silverstein, the poems and drawings of it, and that's what it looked like.
I am unfamiliar.
You're unfamiliar, yeah. So I mean, in here, how many pages was this thing? I want to say it was. I'm going to just be pulling a number out of my ass, honestly. Give me 1 second. I can tell you here, though. It was. I should be able to see the book details. 176 pages. So we're probably talking at least 165 poems in there. So I mean, what are your books looking at?
So it vastly depends on the book.
Definitely.
Many of all of my self-published projects on itch.io are zines, so those are typically 8 pages, because you're supposed to be able to print them out on one piece of paper and fold them.
Okay.
Because within the anarchist movement, we tend to use zines as a way of disseminating information because they're easy and cheap to print, they're easy and cheap to store, and they don't take super long to read. So they're the maximum of accessibility. Those types of projects typically have between 5 and 8 poems in there.
Okay.
Then my 3 published books that are through traditional presses and not just self-published by me on itch.io tend to be around more like 10 to 20 poems. That's what's called a chapbook in the poetry scene, because whereas a full length would be more around like the 50-page mark.
Okay, I mean, but still, that's an impressive amount of poetry that's being written and produced there. So, what all's involved in the creating of a book? I don't like to write. When a text starts to get long, I would rather call and just have the conversation. Sure. I don't like to write. People go, oh, well, it's a good way of therapy to be able to write down how you're feeling, whatever, and I don't like to do it. The only time that I write anything is when I'm feeling big emotion. I'll write down my feelings, but it tends to turn into music. Yep. Is where mine ends up going. Mm-hmm. So I've never put together anything similar to a book. I have been told several times I should write one, but what goes into that? Like, it just seems like a lot of work would go into that.
On my side, it's mainly the writing of the poetry itself, and then coming up with the concept for what a chapbook might look like. So for Boy Apparition, I was really thinking about poems about community, about being mask of gender, about discovering a gender identity, about what it looks like to relate while newly transitioning. And so I chose them. I had to decide on an order, put them in a manuscript, and then eventually pitched it to publishing houses. I got shortlisted for one, rejected from a whole bunch, and then the project was picked up by Vinegar Press, which is a smaller publishing house.
Yes.
That that was just newly founded. Very cool people. I love everyone new I've met through there. My chapbook was part of a run of three chapbooks that all got released around the same time.
Okay.
A few months after my press also launched their own newsletter and literary magazine.
Okay. That was something else I was going to ask about because I saw somewhere, maybe it was on your website here. Yes. Was it on the website? Yeah. You've been. Let me see here. Queer core inspired free versus my thing. I'm a best of the net. Monarch awarded nominated a poet. God, it's like I can't read.
Nominated poet.
Yeah, but it says you're published in the Querencia Press, Akpata, J Journal, Witches Magazine, Fifth Estate, Animally, Our Lives Wisconsin, Library of Errors, Oyster River Pages, Seattle Journal of Social Justice, and so many more. And like, that's a lot of publications. I mean, how?
Yeah, a partridge in a pear tree.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I mean, you're editing all these things. You're putting them together in ways that fit. And I saw somewhere here on your website where it has the read flow, which I'm assuming is you can read it in order of how these things go. Or the best way to read this to make it flow in a good state. Am I correct in that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to on my website, but oh wait, my I had a mixed media project for a time and still do in collaboration with the blog Open Sorcery entitled
Okay.
Flow Anti-State. So that's the combination of poetry and graphic design with found photography from the internet.
Yeah.
And those are mostly poems dealing with themes of place and identity and what it means to be queer and trans in the Great Lakes region. And yeah, I've collaborated with over 100 literary magazines.
100. Oh my God. That. This is just so impressive. I am just so impressed with the amount of work that you've done here. Anarchitties, I love that. That's adorable. Like, I love it.
That was actually a commissioned project by an anarchist pet shop, if you can believe it.
I believe it. It's adorable though. We the last episode we had, they were just so clever in the way that they put words together. Do you remember some? We were just on there.
Make up for time.
Making up or make up for time. There was. Oh my God, Bear! You know what's in my head right now is from the stupid. Okay, so I listen to or I have my daily soap opera, okay, and my Bear will come out and he goes, all right, what's on the what's the drama today, you know, and my soap opera is the Brooke and Jubal in the morning show, and they do the second date update where someone goes out, you know, a guy goes out on a date with a girl, he doesn't hear back from her after the date, and he wants to know what happened, you know, and so he sends emails and calls in and says, hey, this is what happened, I don't understand, I thought we were having a good time, and the radio show will turn around, call up the person, say, hey, do you mind telling us what happened, and then they'll see if they can get the two to go on a second date. The radio show pays for the second date, and this is where I get my my joy in the morning. I get such a kick out of it, and so when we're talking about clever things, the only thing that I'm coming up with is the one from yesterday, whatever. The girl needed to use the restroom, but instead of just telling the guy, hey, I need to use the restroom, she called it out. What, the lowdown with the
dirt snake?
The dirt gotta go something with the dirt snake.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Dirt snake.
Yeah, hash out a dirt. You know. Anyway, they say, and so like that just. The point is, I'm not comparing your stuff to shit. The point is like I really enjoy wordplay, and I'm seeing a lot of wordplay today, you know, and Anarchitties fits in there, and I just and I'm just
Untime zone.
Does it say? It does say untime zone. Yeah. That time zone. No, that time negation zine. I don't even know what that means.
Negation is the act of intentionally amplifying one's synesthesia or impulse or emotional experience. for me, it's like a form of self-care and a part of what anarchist praxis looks like. And so I made a zine about that.
There you go. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. You are just incredibly accomplished in what it is you're doing. You got the book that you have coming out, or book that's out, and you have 2 more coming out. Is there any information about the books coming out that you wanted to share? Maybe kind of time frames of when you're expecting those things to be released, how people can find
So
that?
while I have not promoted it yet due to life being life,
Yes.
Different with Him is now available on Rockwood Press's website for pre-orders. So that'll actually be out next month, but right now can be pre-ordered. And the other one, Void Gazing, will be available to pre-order on Whittle Micro Press starting in May.
Starting in May. So it's coming up real soon here. And one of the other things that you mentioned earlier is that you host a podcast, and you're a participant in another podcast. Uh, Give me a second. I had The
Yes,
Child and
I
Its
am.
Enemies.
Yes, I host The Child and Its Enemies through Channel Zero Network, which is an anarchist podcasting collective.
Okay. So that's
And
not
it's
something they're
about
going to
youth.
find on Spotify.
Oh, it actually is available anywhere you get podcasts. So
Okay,
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Spotify, Apple, anywhere, but can also be listened to online through Channel Zero Network's website if you are someone who is trying not to support big tech. And it's a podcast about youth liberation. So every episode, I interview an anarchist organizer about what would have made organizing more accessible for them as a teen and how they make their organizing more age inclusive, what they do to support youth and teens.
Wow. That I mean, how much information can actually be talked about in an anarchist high school anarchist platform like that? I how much information, like, is there? Let's start off with, like, how many episodes do you have?
I actually haven't checked on this. Let me look this up.
Yeah, I know that we're sitting somewhere around 38 at this point.
More than 35, less than 40.
I think so.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
I think we're about 38.
We've had about 20 episodes, I want to say,
Nice.
although more accurate information will be on our website, thechildanditsenemies.noblogs.org. And we actually aren't just a high school anarchist platform. Almost everyone we interview is no longer a youth 13, but integrates youth liberation into their anarchist practice in some meaningful way.
Okay, so Bear, my leg is popping all over the place.
Uh-oh.
Like in what we just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been like 8 times in the last like 30 seconds. It hurts.
Ouch.
Anyway, okay. I mean, that's incredibly cool that you're hosting a podcast to help it influence and encourage other people around you. How often are you producing these episodes, and how long are they?
Most of our episodes are around a half hour. As for timing, it's very dependent on my capacity and that of my producer. Our typical rhythm is about once a month or so.
Wow. Okay. So once a month, I mean, you've had this almost 2 years then.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, that's a long time for a podcast to keep going, and podcasts aren't necessarily, I don't want to say cheap. I mean, they're, in general, it doesn't cost a ton to run it, but at the same time, there is money involved in that. I do see here on your website that people have the ability to, first off, sign up for a subscription, it looks like, where was it here? They're able to sign up for basically a subscription where they can get more information here from you.
Have
Become
access.
Yeah. Does that sound correct?
Yes. So on my Substack blog, Debate Me Bro, which is an anarchist advice column, people write in with their questions and thoughts about anarchism. I do my best to write back in a way that's educational and inclusive for people who are new to social movements. people can pay an extra bit to be able to comment on posts and read the entire archive.
Yeah.
And I also maintain a page on camaraderie for people who want to set aside a little bit of money every month to support me, just because most of my work is free to read online.
Okay.
And many people value paying artists for their work.
Yes, of course, and that's a great thing to. I mean, it's great. There's a lot of people out here that are putting a lot of time and energy and money into putting together platforms like this and shows such as podcasts and art such as the poetry and all these different things, and it's taken a lot of time, energy, and money to do this kind of stuff. So supporting artists in that way is, keeps the art being able to flow and keeps the information to keep coming, because again, it does take a lot of money to do this kind of stuff. If people want to support you, then you said there's a website they can go to do that.
Yeah, so my website is mkzariel.card.co, and on that website, there's information about how to support me. That can be financial. That can also just be a follow on social media.
True.
I really appreciate any kind of support, anyone who's resonating with my work.
Yeah.
And I am not doing it for the sole reason of being paid. I don't think anyone becomes an anarchist in order to be paid.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense.
I don't understand what anarchism is.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I know there was a whole lot that was here in the email we had kind of wanted to discuss, the poetry, the books, the events that you're doing. Is there anything that I've missed here that you wanted to make sure that we covered?
I wouldn't think so, unless there's something in particular that you wanted to talk about.
No,
I know we wanted to chat through Boy Apparition and other projects like that.
Correct. So yeah, I wanted to make sure we covered everything here for you. I've been looking through both your website and other websites here, just making sure that I try to hit all the things that you do. I am having a hard time finding words here, but all the things that you've been doing and accomplishments and accolades, right? I wanted to make sure that we touch on these things and make sure that people are aware of what it is that you're doing and how to support you, that kind of thing. And I don't think I'm seeing a whole lot else here. And if that's everything that you had, then I think that's all I have. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you for reaching out to us. This is a conversation that we don't get to have all the time. A couple weeks ago, we interviewed a communist and had that conversation. It was a fascinating conversation. I knew nothing about it. I probably still know nothing about it, but I know more than I did. You coming on and being able to and willing to talk about anarchism. Anyway, is that really the word? Anyway, yeah.
Anarchism is like the idea that we can theorize and write about what that would look like.
I was making shit up. I can't believe I got it. So I mean, being willing to come on and talk about this stuff, though, sometimes it takes a lot of energy and willpower for somebody to put themselves out there like that. Clearly, you're putting yourself out there by going around and doing these podcasts and readings in person and remote, the books. So it takes a lot to do that, and I just think it's really impressive that you are doing this in such a out way, but also doing it in a way that, or just putting yourself out there. It takes a lot to do that sometimes, and I'm just really impressed with you. Also, I just wanted to say thank you for the conversation about it and its. I do believe that conversation was a fascinating conversation, helping to understand more, and I think a lot of people will grow from that. I just wanted to say thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bear, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, other than my apologies for having such an audio issue. I am hard of hearing. And
we'll get it fixed in the future.
I am hard of hearing and a lip reader, but for the most part of what you said, I was able to follow just fine. And there's a lot, and I have to, hats off and compliment you handling all this at such a young age.
Yes.
Jeez. I would expect all of this, from someone in, mid 30s, 40s, but
right.
not man. That's what's so impressive for me is you're accomplishing all of this and doing all of this at such a young age. Hats off to you. Because there's no way I'd have that kind of...
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, there's no way I'd have that kind of time management, and I do like two things. And that's that's it. Even I struggle. I just think it's thoroughly impressive. You should be proud of yourself, and it's got to be rewarding work for you.
Yeah, clearly something you love.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And so, no, there wasn't any other questions or anything else I had. I kind of missed the first quarter of the conversation, but it sounded, from what I could hear, it sounded very constructive and organized and very deliberate.
And we did cover your website and how people can find and support you, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was in there so that people can support you. I think that's all we got here for us. So if you want to close us out here, Bear.
Sure. Thanks again, MK Zariel, for joining us. And for listeners and viewers, if you would like to be a guest on the Transplanting Podcast, the contact is daphne@transplantingpodcast.com. Please be patient with us while we still recover, the other socials, but you can always visit the website at transplantingpodcast.com. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day. And...
You said it.
I hope everyone has a beautiful day. And you make good decisions. And as always, welcome to the family.